Hi everyone, welcome to Book of Katherine and welcome to part 2 on my sanctuary city policies. Mostly because I thought I was all done. It was such an extensive video, but there was a big chunk that I missed. And I'm really grateful for the race that is going on in North Dakota, because it wasn't for Thomas O'Neill and the race that he's running against, I believe it's Kevin Carthy. I never would have found out about this. I never would have noticed that the dots on the map that I sent you, some of the dots were a different color. And I looked that up and it meant that it was a state. And I was like, North Dakota is a sanctuary state? And I was like, why would North Dakota be and I was like, oh, right. I was like, oh, because I've heard some things about what's going on in North Dakota. Let me see if hold on. Okay, for example, North Dakota is going bankrupt. Like they're very, very close to the edge of bankruptcy, and they've had to have bailout after bailout, and they're keeping that from the people. Like, they don't want North Dakotans to know. And the reason why that's happening is because they're just getting overloaded and overloaded. Just so much is being imported to North Dakota because no one knows that it's a sanctuary state. And I hadn't put those two dots together until I was researching Thomas O'Neill. And that's part of the reason that I've been like, oh, like, please give this race some attention because of what the GOP did to them. Like, lying, and he was in the room and skipping over him in the nomination. Like, he's in the room, and then it was really, really dirty. And even when the media is on his side, like, the media treats Kevin Carthy, supposedly a Republican, as though he's a Democrat. They treat him no differently. They treat him better than they treat the Democratic candidate. And when you find out that, oh, North Dakota became a sanctuary state, which is just like California, and then we know what we know about sanctuary states and sanctuary city policies, which it turns out has nothing to do with, saving the tired, the poor, and the hungry. And if you're new to us, please find out what we learned, which was really shocking for all of us. It was really heartbreaking to learn what was really going on, but it made sense. Finally, it was just really good to know. But if you don't know about that, you really need to watch that part 1 first. So watch that right here. And unfortunately, that's the last link I'm going to give you for the rest of this video because I have a lot of things going on. I have a lot of doctor's appointments coming up. My health has been poor, so I've been pushing doctor's appointments back and back, and I just can't do that anymore. We're going to have to just shove through and do them. And so I'm going to have to go. And so I was glad, though, like, I missed a doctor's appointment. And I was like, I was just like, oh my gosh. And because of that, like, I was in bed so sick, and because of that, I found this out. And I was just like, sometimes things are meant to be. Like, I was in really bad shape. And in the middle of that, I found this. And I was like, sometimes bad things happen because we're doing, we have unhealthy behaviors. But sometimes bad things happen in order for us to find out absolutely massive things that reveal, like, sometimes you end up being really grateful for the bad things. This is one of those times. I am very, very, very grateful for that. I'm so grateful because this is big. So anyway, so that North Dakota thing made me start looking at, it started really making me looking at, I was like, put a pin in it, North Dakota, this race between Thomas O'Neill, and the media really kept doing all of these stories about North Dakota and saying, oh, the race is between Kevin Carthy and this DNC candidate, Kevin Carthy and this DN candidate, and why vote, a non-Republican if you don't, why vote a wannabe Republican if you could have a real Republican? And I was like, why would you have that headline against the DNC candidate if, and I was like, that headline's really about Thomas O'Neill. Like, that headline isn't about the DNC candidate. And I was like, they are really going hard after Thomas O'Neill. Like, he must really have a chance. And then you read up on him and you find out why. Like, I mean, he'd be a great candidate in any state. Like, he has so much government experience, and he, like, knows the Constitution inside out, and he's just got so much energy. And he fought his way through no matter what the media threw at him. And even when they tricked him and he didn't get the nomination, he fought his way back onto the ticket. That means he knows his law. That means he's determined to fight for the people. And I'm like, there are fighters who fight for power, and then there's fighters who fight for the people. It is clear that he knows what's going on in North Dakota. And it's important now that North Dakota finds out what's going on in their state. And this is the thing, is that there is no possible way. That's why I'm doing this video. That's why I'm picking back up, and we are going to do another video on this, because there is no possible way that you guys know what states are sanctuary states. There's no possible way for you to know. It's impossible. Why is that? Because if you've done any kind of research on just immigration stats, any kind of deep research, you'll find out that for years and decades, and probably because of what we learned in sanctuary cities, what we learned behind of it, of what happened in '96, they have been literally not keeping records. Like literally not keeping records. For example, when the census came out and they asked the question, which is a voluntary census, you don't have to answer it at all. You don't even have to fill the census out. And on the census that they turned out, they had a voluntary question. You know, are you a United States citizen? You don't put your name on the census. It is literally just to help, you know, allocate funds to quarters, and that's it, and to know what the numbers are. And that's why, you know, the media freaked, because they don't want counts whatsoever. You know, so basically they've been putting out, the media's just been putting out the same stat, you know, for decades now. Well, it turns out that all of the departments have been doing that. All of the departments have been putting out a certain set of stats to certain groups of people across the nation, and no one, it has every appearance of being coordinated, which when you see what states are sanctuary states, you can tell it is coordinated. It is absolutely coordinated. So it's just a really well-run business. It's an extremely well-run business. And this extremely well-run business, in order to stay cloaked and hidden, made sure that the stats that went out and the people that were trying to monitor it, they made sure that one group got amazing stats looking one direction and another group got amazing stats looking the other direction. And Google put up one stat and another group put up another stat. And both stats say, hey, this is updated for 2018. And all the while, the media is only mentioning one state. One state is a sanctuary state. Only one. So I find that out today as I'm trying to look up a sanctuary state map for you. And I find out that I can't find a sanctuary state map. You can't get Google to give that to you. It will bring up sanctuary cities with all these dots on a map, and it'll give you the states that have banned sanctuaries policies in their state, which apparently cities continue to ignore. We now know why. We found out that colleges are doing the policies, which, by the way, think about it. Colleges issue student visas. Do you remember how I've been complaining to you about how my college has been constantly sending me new types of fundraising emails that don't give me the name of the organization, that keep sending me just pictures of generic students that say, please send money, but they don't give the name of the organization of where I'm supposed to send money to. They just say, send cash, please. And they say, help a student travel from overseas and make their dream come true. So they don't give me a department that it's going to give to. They give me very, and I'm like, this sounds like, now I know the language because I know the business and I've been in the back rooms. It sounds very, very, very fishy to me. And so I start digging around, and they won't give you answers. And I challenged you guys to start digging around, and they wouldn't give you answers. They either got defensive or they took you off the line. And it turns out all the colleges are doing it. And now I find out that the colleges are offering sanctuary city policies. Well, colleges are who give people student visas. Isn't that a great way to get people on over here for a business? point of all this, the reason why I'm telling you all this is because the elections are coming up, like the dates are coming up, and you have the opportunity to vote in new GOP members from the bottom up. Like the DNC is the one running this thing. The Republicans are the ones that are allowing it to happen. Like they're just either nice guys, they don't know how to fight, they're old school, they don't know how to do it, or they're corrupt, like Kevin McCarthy is fully corrupt. So they go, there's just a whole litany of problems. The people running against them, they're ready to fight. And they're ready to fight for us. The best part about them is that they know what's going on in the real world. Like they see us. They know what's going on now. None of them are like out of it. And that's the point of this. So, sanctuary states. So I decided to wait. I didn't want to, I had a feeling and I was just like, oh, babe. So I kind of put out some feelers because I was like, well, which map is it? Which map is it? And then I just had this sinking feeling because I know how they work. And I was like, oh, God, just tell me it's not both. Just tell me it's not both. Because both maps would say, like, updated 2018. Just tell me it's not both. Just tell me it's not both. And everyone came back. It's both. And I just was like, I needed like confirmation from my best. You know what I mean? So I waited till tonight. And I just read the list. And didn't even know that information wasn't out there for you guys. Let me give it to you. I'm really sorry. California, Colorado, makes sense, knowing what we know. Nevada, Utah, that may not make sense to you, Utah, because you're a fully Republican state with like Mitt Romney and being based in the Mormon church. What you have to understand, Utah, is that you have the NSA. Not only that, but all of the best drug rehabilitation programs in the nation are in your state. Which means when the kids try to run, all the kids who really actually get off are in your state, and they don't want that. Like, they want to make sure that drugs can be dealt at all of those rehabilitation centers. Like, it's essential for control. New Mexico, it borders. Illinois, remember how they said they still can't control the gun crime there, even though they have the strictest gun laws? Can you imagine why now? Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, Rhode Island. New England, I want you to think about that. New Hampshire has the worst opioid crisis. Why do you think they didn't make New Hampshire a sanctuary state, but all the states around it? I'll tell you why. New Hampshire is the first state for the presidential race. Notice that those states don't have very many sanctuary cities. Go ahead and look at New England. There's hardly any sanctuary cities in New England. Bet New England doesn't know. Why don't they put sanctuary cities in New England? I wonder why that is. That's because that's where all the politicians live. All the politicians live in New England. That's where all their families live. That's where all the money is, baby. That's where all of the lobbyists live. That's where all their vacation homes are. That's where all of it is. That's right there. And that's where they campaign and they live out. Oh, and where do they have all the cities? Right in Boston, right in the inner city right there. That's where they put it, where they don't care. Oh, but they put the sanctuary state right in the surrounding ones where all the woods are, where there's hiding. In Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, border up that New Hampshire, the presidential state. Gosh, you think they plan on swinging an election? You think they plan on swinging an election in 2020? Rhode Island, a port? Anyone going to be able to watch that Judge in Providence same way anymore? Now I know why they want to take that show national. Put a nice happy face on Rhode Island when they have a sanctuary state law. They keep law and order. They sure are nice to people. But man, they're harder on all of those people than they are on the people who are committing crimes. Like the worst kind of crimes. Oregon, North Dakota. That's 12 states. 12 strategically placed states. And I don't have a map of the United States. I don't. I have a world map. This is the best I got. I got a globe and I got a world map. So this is the best I got. That's the United States. It's actually bigger than this, but this is what we got. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to take this in and I'm actually going to fill in every state that's a sanctuary state for you so that you can see what's been done behind your backs. Something that you didn't vote on. Because the primaries are coming up June 12th. June 12th. June 12th. Let's see. So I thought I should do I'm not done yet. I've just done, I think, 6 states, and I thought I should show you. That's Oregon, California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. The only one isn't Arizona. No wonder Arizona's given so much crap in the media. And no one, there's so much death there. I'm going to keep going. But all right, I'm done. The other states were smaller, thank God. Like, I'm better. Okay. All right. Like, I filled out the worst first. Didn't know that. I was just thinking left to right. All right, so we've got North Dakota, Illinois, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Maine. Pretty sure that's everyone. So we've got California, Colorado, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Illinois, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, North Dakota, and Oregon. Yeah. So to me, strategically, well, first of all, I should say the reason you don't see any states here is apparently in like 2015, there was a big movement down here starting in 2009 and moving up to 2015. There was a big movement to outlaw like sanctuary city policies in the states, like the legislatures actually moved to outlaw it in the states, like the Republican legislatures or whatever actually moved to outlaw. And cities like still go against it. Like you can see the maps, like there's still cities and colleges going against that, which is something we need to look at, colleges standing against that. I'm just kind of like, that scares me. That's a whole new can of worms of like, what are our colleges actually functioning as anymore? Like, what is their function anymore? If all the questioners that get up are just paid shills, like what's really going on at them? Like, do we even know? Like, we can't assume anything anymore. Like, do we have any ideas? So, because it's not learning, we know that. And Anyway, so, but here is something, and then we know this is like, obviously for the northern border to have something here and here, to have access here, that makes sense. New England has a huge opioid problem. And also there's a ton of like wilderness, and like places where the revolutionaries used to hide, like deep down underground tunnels and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's interesting. And then here, this is a huge problem area. Like we know that there's a huge opioid, like you'll see if you look at the opioid, all the cities are grouped right here. Like all the sanctuary cities are grouped right here. And this is Chicago, where the gun crime, where people are dying all the time, like 5,000 deaths a year from gun crime. Like we're learning why. And then North Dakota, I think it's literally just an entry place because, oh gosh, my meds. I think it's literally just an entry point of entry because they need something along the border where no one's watching. Just no one's paying attention. No one in North Dakota knows or paying attention or anything like that. But here is a really big problem. Like, this is a really big issue because, like, people, this is a border crossing no one's paying attention to. People cross the border at Vancouver all the time. People cross the border over here all the time to go to New York and everything like that. No one crosses the border here. So, like, it's easy to pay off agents and for no one to see and stuff like that. No one's paying attention. So, strategically, it makes sense. But this, when I look at this, like, if you've been to El Paso, like, we did it, like, we actually did El Paso once. Recently, like we did El Paso, like right when I was getting sick. Well, that seems recently to me. No, right. Oh. Well, anyway, it was like in the last 6 years, and El Paso scared the living heck out of me. Like you could feel, it felt different. You could actually feel something driving all along the border, like along the 10 there. And I was like I just felt scared driving the 10, like inside, because, you know, I'm a feeling. And I just felt fear. And I was like, you know, we used to do this as road trips growing up. And I was like, I never felt fear here. Like, why do I feel scared? Like, it was terrifying. And then, you know, I saw like Breaking Bad. And I was like, oh, well, El Paso's where they like cut off his head and put him on a tortoise. That might explain why, you know, and stuff. And now we know why this stuff is going on. But I just want to say, like, El Paso's the link right where El Paso's right where New Mexico meets Texas meets Mexico. Like, stuff's going down in El Paso. You can tell. Like, it is a big freaking, it is like, oh. Like, it's worth it to get near White Plains, but like, go to White Plains. Like, but you have to be, how should I say, wise of the world. You have to be really checked in and aware of your surroundings if you're going to go to El Paso. If you're not aware of your surroundings, you're gonna have issues. You're gonna have real issues. Do not go there unless you are extremely aware of your surroundings. If you are naive and young bed and just blossoming into the world, that's the last place on earth you should go. If you're aware of the world and everything like that, like if you're Brooklyn, go, fine, you'll survive. All right, so, but when I see this, everyone yelling about the border suddenly makes sense to me. When I see this, now, does all the news in the media about the border make sense to you? I keep putting my finger over it. So, let me see if I can get you in closer. Come here. So, does this now, like, make more sense to you? Like, does that kind of make more sense to you now when you see that? I know there's a strong reflection. Let me see if I can get to a place where you don't have a reflection. I'm really trying to help you guys out here. I don't know if I can help, but does that make more sense to you? Like, seeing that border there, I'll try and make up a map for you guys if I have time. I'm running out of time. There. Does that border make more sense to you now, seeing the states where they are? Like, why they're yelling about the border and why they want it open and why they don't want any border troops at the border? Like, why they don't want any National Guard at the border and why they don't want a border wall built? Look at how much business that would shut down. Like that would shut down some major, major, major business of all sorts and all kinds. That would be a big problem. Like that is the source, you guys. Like that is the source. It connects us to everything below. Like it is it. It is it. It's the source of the, it's not, and this is big business right here. You know, this is big, big business. Yeah, that's a big problem. Like that's a big problem. No wonder the US is really, no wonder the media is yelling about not making a distinction between illegal immigrants and immigrants and the whole 9 yards. And it's something to realize like how much of our nation is actually, it's not sanctuary cities. It's a third of our nation, at least a third of our country. At least like a third of our country to a quarter of our country. Is that a quarter? I suck at math. All right. So, anyway, you guys know what I mean. So there we are. Like June 12th, I'll do another video about like when the vote is or whatever. But, June 12th is like a bunch North Dakota. Your vote is June 12th. Like that is the thing. June 12th and Maine. Like June 12th, Maine and North Dakota, your votes are on June 12th. And actually, I need to look at the votes because now that I know there's a whole nother set, let me go look them all up now so you guys are prepared. I'm back. I did it. I went ahead and I found out all the dates for you. So I have all the dates. And okay, so like I think 2 states have already passed, 2 or 3 states. So, but 2 of them, I believe California and one other were actually in Illinois. Were after I had already done the Sanctuary Cities video, so hopefully they got in their votes, which is really, really great. So let's go ahead and go over the ones for the rest of you. So you have time. Now, I want to say this, well, I'll go ahead and show your dates, but then we really need to talk. Like, you and me, we really need to talk because, ooh, the press has, like, lost it. They've lost it because they figured out you're winning. Because you guys, like, won. You won big. And they found out and they're freaking. And I'll tell you what's happening. So let's look. Okay. So, bah. All right. So June 12th is a big date. It has most ones on it. So North Dakota and Maine, 2 really big ones because the people in there for me so far are like really, really creepy. Utah, like, I want to talk to you, Utah. Okay. So Utah, I know that you have leaders. I know I've been to Utah numerous times and I have been to your temple, and I have sat down with your people numerous times. And I just want to say that the people that are running, also have, like, they wouldn't run if they also had, like, met with people and also heard that it was the right thing to do. Like, it was their calling as well. I want you to think about it. Like, because the thing is that the GOP and the people that are in, like, remember that you were lied to about the sanctuary state status. So it's possible that they are lying to you about whether or not they were chosen for this. Like, when this big of a business is on the line, like your reputation for being the place where kids can come and get healing, like that's why they made it a sanctuary state. And the NSA is there. Like, it is, you know that good people are the biggest targets. They make, like, you know, it's the highest on the mountain are the ones are the biggest targets to take the fall. Like, everyone is culpable. Like, there's no one that isn't culpable, right? And so the people that are running against, that are, like, don't discount them. Like, don't discount them just because the other person says, like, I was chosen. If they're running, they also were told that they were chosen as well. But one of them's lied to you and the other one hasn't. And the other one is being extremely brave and noble in order to run. And they're running because they know what's going on and they're ready to tackle it. That is more brave and noble than the person that has lied to you and put you into this situation. I want you to consider that. Okay, just consider that for me. Because I've been hearing a lot of GOP people, like, over and over. I've been listening to tapes over the last 5 years. And they've been saying, well, the GOP just doesn't know how to fight. Like, they're so, like, all over the place and they're so discombobulated. They just don't know how to fight. Well, we learned that wasn't true, didn't we? We learned that wasn't true when we looked through their voting record. We learned out that they are actually a very skilled fighting machine. That they actually work in unison very well. And it makes sense because they've been in those seats for decades now. And they work with the media, and they say that they're scared of the media. Well, that means they do what the media tells them to. And they work in sync, and they buy and they trade. I mean, read Cheryl Atkinson. She knows exactly how it works. And they have a very, very cushy lifestyle. They've learned how to go with the flow. And we can't have anyone go with the flow anymore. We need fighters in there now. And the people who are coming up are willing to fight. And remember, if the new people ever fail you, there is another election around the corner. It's not for forever. The term is limited. There will be another election. Remember that. Go ahead. Give yourself that freedom to believe that they were also chosen. All right. So, and we also, the DNC is out. We know that. Like, the DNC runs this entire sanctuary state thing. Like, I know that they're running DNC candidates in all of the districts that they haven't bothered running them before. Where do you think they get the money to do that? They're getting it off of your kids' backs. Through what business? You know, the suffering. It's not just Soros. It's the suffering through Facebook and Google and Forbes and Bloomberg. And it's not just like the Hillary Clintons. It's everything. They all work as one. You know, Utah, Rhode Island. So you guys are all June 12th. North Dakota, Maine, Utah, and Rhode Island. June 26th, you're just a couple weeks later, Colorado. Okay, I didn't say this last time. I know I said that you're like the metropolis for Agenda 21. Do you remember what the metropolis is like in the Hunger Games? Remember how I said like they put out something and then like the Matrix and they say, and then 1984, and it's like to get you ready mentally for what's coming and to accept it and to just be like, oh, I'm ready for this. Like what happened in the Hunger Games with the metropolis? Like the metropolis was not for you. Like some people are like, oh, we would love to be the new capital. And then, no, sweetie, it's not for you. The metropolis is being built for the billionaires and the wealthy of the world. That's why the rich are moving in. No, they're moving you out. They have plans to move you out to the outer reaches. It's not for you, honey. They have plans to take you out. The trains come to them to bring them the servants and for them to travel, but it's not for you. Remember that. It's not a city built for you. It's built for the wealthy billionaires who run our Congress. Just keep that in mind. It's like going to be Aspen, just spread out. So June 26th, replace it all. This is to replace it all, bottom to top, because remember, your local officials are the ones that are bringing in Agenda 21 at the local level. And by the way, people are bringing in reports of what things are like already with the new votes in. And they said things feel different in their town already. Like the new people are like they got over the shock. They took like 24 hours to get over the shock of getting in. And then they're like, hey, yeah, let's do this. And they just start working like right away. Like they're energized, like they're ready to go. They're like, this is what I wanted. I can do it. I can actually fix everything that I've been wanting to fix. Like we can do this. And it's like stuff's getting clean. It's getting cleaned up so fast. And people are like, the town actually feels different. Like immediately. And I just was like that's why I posted the picture of the sunset. I was just like, this is for us. Right? So it makes a difference, like local, bottom to top, like we got to replace everyone. So August 14th, Vermont. I don't think it's a coincidence that Bernie Sanders, that told us the biggest lie of all, that fight against the 1%, and it turns out the DNC is the 1%. You know, not just the party of the KKK, not just the party of sterilization, not just the party who gave Hitler all of his ideas for mass murder and genocide and, you know, social engineering. He got all of that from the progressives. Like literally, we have documentation of it. Not only that, but But Bernie Sanders actually went out there and was like, not only am I progressive, the worst part of the Democratic Party, I mean, the Democrats were slavery. That's, I don't know. I guess you can debate on which one's worse, you know, the slave trade or, you know, sterilization and mass genocide. So, and he goes out there and he's like, progressive. Let's go against the 1%. Meanwhile, his entire party is funded by Google, the top 10 billionaires on Forbes' top 100 list, except for two guys of one company who don't make the most money. Like, they get shafted because all the things benefit his companies. Like, yeah, that guy. I'm not surprised he's a sanctuary state. Not surprised. Poor Vermont. Like, what the heck is hiding in their hills? Oh my gosh. September 4th, Massachusetts. So Massachusetts, like, notice I found out that you had a Republican governor. It's changed, but only so much. You know why that is? Because they knew that you were going to say it got so bad that we need a new Republican governor. And they handed you up somebody because the corruption's so bad that they just took a DNC guy, like a guy in the middle, and they just handed you up somebody. No, baby. You got to get a bit more radical than that, man. You got to get more a bit radical. Got to get more free than that. You got to go for the next one. Like the next one that you always think you're going to like, oh, they don't have a lot of experience. That's the point. That's the experience in our world is used to payoffs. Like, you got to think of it that way. Like, experience means they're used to handouts. They're used to the manicures, you know? So, like, just remember, think of it this way. Remember what I said. I love this line. I was watching my video with my husband, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's a great line. Remember what I said. If you can see them hold, like, if they got that smile on their face, like, even the Republicans have it, like, if you can see them holding, like, the little shaky shake thing, the little mariachi things, if you can see them going, ah-ha-ha, 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 easily, boom, gone. And it has nothing to do, I just realized that might be, like, it has nothing to do with that. I'm saying if you could see them on a stage, like, fine, say tambourine, like, if they could see them with the tambourine, ah-ha-ha, 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 do-do-do-do, if you can see them with the fan, ah-ha-ha, ah-ha-ha, bam! Gone. Not meant to be a leader for you because they will not be fighting for you. That means they are a performer. That means they are a magician. Like, haven't you noticed magicians look exactly like politicians today? Magicians look up magicians in Vegas. They look exactly like politicians today, from the local level all the way up. Magicians are performers and they do hat tricks. They make you look over here while they're doing something over there. Bam, stabbing you in the back. You don't want that. You want the guy that's like, if they had a fan, they're like, and it would fall on the floor and they're like, oh God, okay, let me go pick that up. That's what you want. Like, that's exactly what you want. Like, that's exactly what you want. You want someone who, if they got a card deck and they try to do it, it'd be like, and it would just go everywhere. That's what you want. You want someone who couldn't trick you if they tried. That's what you want. Like, that's what this government was made. It was supposed to be for the people, by the people, remember? Remember? Like, that's exactly how it was designed to be governed. That's exactly what you want. What you want. I need to sleep. I got to walk outside today on my own, without a walker, without a cane. I walked outside on my own, so I have a lot to celebrate. So I'm very, very happy. I almost was like, but I feel stupid doing that. I just like, because I'm just not, I can't do it. So I would feel so stupid doing that. But people are made to do that. That just grosses me out. You can tell the difference. So just use that as a measuring stick. So I'll do another video on the rest of you who, for the rest of the dates that are coming up for all those, the list of people for the rest of the, states that are coming up. Now, that's what I was going to tell you. The techniques that are coming up, I'll give it to you briefly here, but I'm going to give you a much more elongated list in the next video. But they are changing techniques now that they know that you are winning, right? Now that they know that you're winning, For a while they were quiet. For a while they were just like, shh. But then you guys started sharing things, and it started getting across state lines. And then something changed on Google. I started searching for primary dates, and a big shift happened. They didn't bring up the primary dates for the first time. They brought up how to apply, the dates of like how to enter into the primaries. And I was like, are people like entering? Like, people don't suddenly get interested in entering unless they know. And I was like, that explains why the media's suddenly been waking up, because all of a sudden my Twitter feed has changed. Like somewhere around like 3 p.m. today or 2 p.m., like it was just like, vroom. My whole Twitter feed just was like, vroom, changed. Like they weren't saying anything about the vote. That out of nowhere, vroom. And suddenly they started posting horrible signs that were supposed to be supposedly by conservatives. And it was like, oh, death to gays and death to Jews and death to transsexuals and death to... And I was just like, what the heck is this? And it was like, this. And then it was just all this like horrible, horrible stuff. And I was like, I remember seeing those signs when like I was a little girl in Long Beach. And I was like, I was telling my husband about it. I was like, it could have been taken back in Long Beach. Thinking about that Obama shot that they took. Do you remember when they took out a picture about kids in cages? And they were like, look at what they're doing at our border. Isn't so horrible what POTUS is doing to kids at the border? And then it turned out that was taken in Obama years, but they didn't care. Like, they didn't give a frick. Like, they didn't care at all. Like, they didn't care at all. They were like, sure, border up kids. Like, lock them in cages. Which tells you what's actually happening. It is disturbing when they're just bringing in mobs of kids over and just placing them with other families, and then those families don't report back in, and the families themselves are other people that came in over to the border. Like, this is insanity. It's so planned. It's so planned. It's such an organized, nice, even, just, it's insanity. So, it's dangerous. It's so, the suffering, like the suffering, it's not fair. It's not fair it's just not fair. It's not right. For any of us, like these wealthy people are acting like we're just chess pieces on a board, and they just don't care. They just knock us off. So, what to do about all these things going on in the media? It's going to get worse. Like they're realizing that you're going out there and you're voting. It's going to get really ugly on there, and they're going to make you feel really horrible. They're going to make you feel like you are a conservative in the worst kind. They're going to start saying that you're a Nazi and all these things. And what I can say is this, is like, you are exactly what you know you are. Number one, you are a liberal. If you're a classical liberal, you're a freaking liberal. It doesn't, if you vote what you're voting for what you know you're voting for. If you're voting for the Constitution, like, we've gone through the reasons we're voting this way. I'm a freaking independent. I know exactly my reasons. Remember, tyranny is in the ignorance of the nuances. It's when they ignore the nuances, like putting up a sign of saying like, oh, you're transgenders die, gays die, whatever. That used to be the crazy guy on the side of the street who's absolutely mentally deranged. Why would you post something like that? Because they want to make everyone feel that if they're voting for freedom and we the people, that you're like this. And remember the nuances. Like, that is not in any way, shape, or form what you're doing. Remember that. Just like taking down the statue of Robert E. Lee. The Democrats went nuts over that. Take it down, take it down, take it down. What did we learn? Robert E. Lee was actually against slavery. But Byrd, who's all over West Virginia, was the leader of the Ku Klux Klan. Why didn't they go after him? Because he was a Democrat. Tyranny is in the ignorance of the nuances. They just ignore all the nuances. And it's our job to use the brains that we've been given to continue to look at the nuances. And one of the ways that we can do that is using my research tips. And I'll link it right here, the research tips. I'm going to break my rule and link the research tips right there. And be careful about what we actually read. It really, really helps. It keeps the cobwebs clear and everything like that. and not let them into your life. And then the third thing is just remember that reality is what you experience on a day-to-day basis. Like they had Twitter things trending of like, you know, gays are being something about, you know, the persecution of gays. And I was just like, when are they being banned from any nightclub? The only gay I know being persecuted of is Maya Yiannopoulos, who was like shouted out of a bar for being a Nazi when he's like the exact opposite. Like, yes, he was banned from it. Like, they screamed at him out of a bar. Like, the persecution is happening, like, in a very, very different way. But, like, you know, persecution of that is like when you are not allowed to drink from the same fountain, when you're not allowed to enter and eat into the same restaurant, when you're not, and I'm like, it has been 60 years since the civil rights movement happened. 60 years, like society has moved on. Generations have been born since then. And in those generations, they were raised in schools and raised with parents who were also raised on the values after the civil rights movement that were taught everyone's equal. Like, we are way, way past the days of the Democrats who were like teaching Jim Crow. Like, no one now was raised in Jim Crow. Like, that generation is like 90 and they're not interacting with society. They're like locked up and off. You know, they're not interacting with society. Like, they're definitely not on social media. So it's like you have to realize, like, what are you experiencing in society today? Like, when you go out there and you meet people and you see what's going on, do you see anyone who is gay in your personal surrounding life being persecuted? If you do believe that, go with that. Like, seriously, because they're going to screw with your online world and try and manipulate that because they really want to go after your vote. You know why? It is the most powerful day of the year. It is your most powerful day of the year. And they don't want you to continue to have that 3% where you went up 3%. Remember, that tax cut disappears after the election. And they want it to disappear so bad. And that's why we're doing this election. That's why we're voting in the people that we're voting in, to make sure that it doesn't stay at 3%. So it continues to go up. Did you know that women's unemployment is at the lowest in recorded history? Are the feminists saying anything? Black unemployment is at the lowest in recorded history. Like if you want any of that to continue, that's why we're voting this way, is because we want those things to stay in place. And those things are, you know, for everyone. And so when you vote, you know you're voting for everyone. And you know, like, you're not voting against gay employment. You know, we are in a society where, you know, Starbucks actually picks, they say in their policy, they actually pick those minorities over others, to the point where it's actually tips over the scale, which is actually a violation of the Civil Rights Act. So it's even privileged. So if you see it in your daily life, go with that. But if you don't, you can't believe online. And they're going to try. They're going to work really, really hard to make you feel like crap about your vote. And I just look at that and I'm like, wow, we must really be succeeding. That's what I look at it as. I'm like, the louder they yell, the more I know it's working. The more I know people are registering and running. And if you want to know how to get the word out, because I think we can flip blue states. I really think we can flip blue states. Someone just asked on a Dinesh D'Souza, and I'll mention this in the next video, but someone just asked in a Dinesh D'Souza book launch, they said, what is the one thing, like, my friends always vote Democrat. They're just used to vote. They assume they have to vote Democrat. What is the one thing I can mention? Like, what's the one turning point thing that I can mention to, like, get them to realize, you know, because they know all the facts now. Like, the Democrats are so like, they're just like everything people actually don't want, right? And they're like, how do I convince them? Like, what's the one thing that I say? And he said one thing, and I was like, well, okay. And I was like, well, this would be my answer. His answer was the Jacksonian Democrats and then a bunch of other things in history. My answer would be, and I've said this before, my answer would be, well, they say they represent the poor, but they actually represent the rich. Their entire funding base are liberal 1%ers. You know, Bernie Sanders went out there and said, you know, oh, the rich use the government, the rich use the government. Well, they actually use the Democrats. Nancy Pelosi is the highest paid person on Capitol Hill, has been for a decade now. Let's see, Google owns them and Facebook owns them and, you know, Forbes owns them and Bloomberg owns them and Reuters owns them. And you just go down the list and you just go, yeah, they're all liberal. Amazon owns them. Yeah, and they're all obsessed with getting voters for the Liberal Party. So everything you read, see, hear, and touch, those are liberal donors and they're all billionaires and they are all white and they all have one agenda, and it is to control your mind. They're the rich. They're the 1%. Tell me who is rich that's conservative? Who wants to control your mind? And why is the DNC lying about it? That would be my, like, one thing, you know, and I've said that a million times, but, like, I was just like, so I have a video about how to spread the vote. Like, I think you can turn blue states. I think you can easily do it with flyers and things like that. So just getting little facts out there like that. And there's a bunch of little facts. Like, if you go through my research, I think everyone in your town has little personal things. Like, there's a town I was going through in South Vermont that I hadn't been through in a long time. And we have to travel through it to get to some things that are really important for a special medicine that I have. And there's, like, you can't get it. Like, you can't, for all the medicines that they make you get, man, it sure would be nice if pharmacies carried it, all pharmacies, but they don't. They make you travel, So anyway, so we have to travel really far for this one pharmacy. And so we drove through it, and you know what? It was amazing how Vermont, of all places, like, and I love this one town. We went through it with our road trip. And it was amazing. Hold on. It's that, he says that it's Brattleboro. I don't know. Well, he says it's Brattleboro. So anyway, and it is, we went through it. I just recognized it as what we went. I was like, I know this place. I'm just really good spatially. I'm not as great with whatever. And it was like overnight, like it was like someone put like a fairy wand across it. And it was like, and it was like in full bloom, and it was just gorgeous and everything. And like all the people were different and everything was different. And it was just like, and like more businesses were opening. It used to be so drudgy and I was just like, what the heck changed? Like, this is like a different place. Like, I almost thought it was a different town. It was so different. And then I was like the tax cut, like the president changed, like, that was it for me. And I remember I was angry for like the rest of the day because it was Vermont. And I was so upset because I was just like, you are benefiting. I saw you and I've seen you. And you're sterilizing your kids at 3. Sterilizing your kids. I'm gonna be sick. I just was like, they'd rather choose death than life just to name call. They love their 1% sponsors that much, and the people of Vermont deserve better. They really do. But I looked around and I was like, how can they not see? Like, I don't know if they're just as guilty, because the business owners to look around and see. And if you can, business owners, like, you have to look at pictures. Why don't you go on your Facebook and why don't you look at pictures of your town over the last 8 years, and why don't you look at how they've changed into this presidency? You go ahead and look, and you see, because I have said it again and again and again. Like, I have said it again and again. Put a bag over the head and look at the things they do. Forget what they say. Look at what they do. Forget what they say, look at what they do. And Bernie Sanders says a lot of things, but what does he do? Lies to bring in people like a honey trap, saying we're the saviors of the poor because we'll clean out the rich and powerful. while in the background, they've got the money machines doing all the child trafficking in his own state. August 14th, Vermont. It's time to make a change. North Dakota, Maine, Utah, Rhode Island, June 12th. June 26th, Colorado. September 4th, Massachusetts. And they will try, and they will try, and they will try to get your vote because they know how powerful it is. Because on that day, you are more powerful than them all. On that day, Google is this big, and you are this on that day. And they know it. You know, after the election, I actually heard people on CNBC say, it's so disappointing that we still have the vote. Let him feel it. So disappointing. The elite are so disappointed you still have the vote. Why don't you remind them why? One of the best ways not to hear the people online is to spend your time out there making your voice heard. I love you guys. I'm Book of Katherine. This was Sanctuary States. Because they've buried this for too long. It's time for these states to be heard. Please, please, please share this one. Peace out. Enjoy voting. We're going to do a clean house. 100%, baby. 100%.